All right, hello, and welcome to this week's video where we're going to be talking about how to take responsibility without going into self-blame. So this is something that I think is really important, and it is a incredibly nuanced and sort of challenging thing to navigate on the self-love path, and that's why I want to take a whole video to just like really talk about this because yeah, this can be something that is very paradoxical and difficult to wrap our minds around sometimes. So I hope that I can give you some context and some tools in this video to help you with navigating how to take responsibility for yourself, how to take responsibility for what's going on in your life, how to figure out where you can do things and where your power is to create positive change in your life, um, without it turning into a new thing that you do to just like beat yourself up. And well, the thing is that what we're gonna notice is that most of us have the tendency to beat ourselves up, and taking responsibility for ourselves for most of us, um, right now, the way that we're doing it is through an avenue of self-blame. So even if we're kind of getting semi good results from following that, it's still coming with a fight or flight response, and it's still sort of shutting our perception down, and there's shadowy stuff going on within it that comes from childhood wounding. That's totally not any of our faults. So that's what I want to talk about. It's like most of us are already in a state of self-blame and in a state of when we discover something that we can do to empower ourselves, we turn it into a like, well, why was I doing that, and what was wrong with me that I was like, what's wrong with me that I'm doing this, and it's my fault that I'm in pain, and like clearly this is a big flaw in me, and I suck, and that can sometimes like stop us from being able to actually being able to change, because to change means we were wrong and shitty before. Or every time we're in pain, we just like constantly go to that, like, what's wrong with me, what am I doing wrong, how is this my fault, and then we loop in certain fixes, like we change our diet, or we quit the job, or we quit the relationship, or we kind of have our cycles of things that we do, and it helps for a little while, and then we fall off, and then we think, oh, right, like I had the solution, I knew what I was doing, and then I did it wrong, and then I suck, so it's still just my fault that I'm in pain, instead of being able to say that like there's probably a much larger, more complex situation happening that we're not able to see because we're in fight or flight. Okay, now quickly before we even start that, I want to just say one thing about the self-love path and this everything that I'm saying again, because I feel like it's just really important. And that is this. You can't do the self-love path wrong. And when I am talking, so the other day I was posting about how the foundation for this stuff, everything that I talk about, is learning how to be our own secure attachment, learning how to get on our own side, learning how to stop blaming ourselves and shaming ourselves and guilting ourselves and abandoning ourselves when we're in pain, or when we don't know what's going on, or when we want to fix something we don't know how to fix, and all of these things, and recognizing these patterns that we have. And I got a question from someone saying like, okay, so I have to give up blaming myself because it doesn't actually feel good or safe for me to give up blaming myself, because that makes me feel like if I don't blame myself for the pain that I'm in, then I'm never going to change, and then I can't get out of it. And so you're telling me I have to give this part of myself up to be on the self-love path. And my answer was no, you are an adult and you don't have to do anything. Okay, so this, what I'm teaching, I am not ever standing up here saying I have the answer for all people at all times, and this is what it is. Okay, because that doesn't exist. We are all individuals on different paths and at different places on our journey. And so even though even for me, I know that I say things like, you shouldn't do this, or this is a useless thing, or da 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 da. I know that I should be more careful about that, and I want to hold myself accountable for that, to say that, like, that's not actually true. And there are certain things that we are going to do on this path that are completely functional and exactly what we need to be doing from where we are, that from somewhere else on the path or in someone else's life would be completely destructive. There are some things that, yes, they objectively don't get us the result that we want. Like when we say we want to go from New York to Florida and we start heading north, we could say that's wrong because it doesn't matter how far north you head, you're never going to get to Florida because Florida is south. Yes? However, sometimes even the idea that we needed to go north to like prove to ourselves that Florida wasn't north is the right thing to do. So I really, really, really just want to emphasize that again, this path is about steps, it's about process, it's about where we are and what is actually pertinent for us on our path right now. Like, for instance, I can even just say, like, right, lots of people in the kind of health world that I'm involved in are really into fasting and really into juicing and really into all of these things. And I've never been attracted to that. I've never done a juice fast. I've never done a water fast. And like with my chronic digestive issues and all these things, I've been told like over and over and over again, it's like if you just did a fast, it would heal you. If you just did your water fast, it'll heal you. If you just do a juice fast, it'll heal you. And look at all these people I know who did these juice fasts and now their digestion is like amazing and it works for me and all these things. And I've always just been like, yeah, I think that's a really bad idea. I don't think that I should do it. And now finding out more about my physiology and about why my digestive issues are the way that they are and all these things, I can say definitively, like, that would have been a really bad thing for me to do. Juice fasting and water fasting would have put my body into an extra state of stress, and like, the main reason my digestive issues are the way that they are is because of stress. So, does that mean that no one should ever juice fast and that no one should ever water fast? Like, I'm not going to recommend it. I don't really know that I can say it's like the greatest thing ever, but I would never tell someone not to do it if they really feel like they need to do it. I would say, like, please be responsible. Please have somebody monitor you. Don't just willy-nilly do it over and over and over again. I do think that getting depleted is definitely a thing. However, for some people, it might be a good thing. For some people where they're at, it might be exactly what they need. For some people, it might be the most damaging thing ever. But we can't say juice fasting is good or bad. We can just say, for you and where you're at, is it going to move you down the path or not? Are you going to learn something from it or not? So just please be mindful that with everything that I say and that everything that I talk about, we're putting it in the context of nothing that I say is ever going to perfectly match everybody. Nothing that I say is ever going to be exactly what you need to hear every single time, right? There are going to be some things that I say that really land with you, and some things that I say that land with you in 10 years from now, some things that I say that never land. And that's okay, because we are all on different paths and we are all going to need different things. And that's why talking, like listening to a lot different people and reading different philosophies and trying different things and just really being open to, I'm going to try it or I'm going to consider it and then see how it feels for me. Like, you don't even have to try things necessarily, right? There, you can definitely have things where you say, that just doesn't seem like it's the thing I should do, and I don't need to try it. Or that's the thing I really want to do, and I'm going to try it, and then maybe it doesn't get you the result that you want, and then you can just say, okay, I didn't do it wrong. What did I learn from that? It was something that I really felt that I needed to do. It didn't give me the result that I wanted. It didn't give me the result that I expected. But that doesn't mean it was wrong. It's just, what did I learn? You see? And so I just really want you to, like, fully own that there is no have to on this path. And then that's the second thing, is that there are no, like, this is what you're inevitably going to end up being and doing if you're doing the path right, so you may as well just make yourself do it now. Okay? I know a lot of people who, so like this question, right? Like, does this mean I have to give this part of me up? No. It's not inevitable that you have to end up any of these things if you're doing the path right. Just because something looks the way that it looks on me when I'm doing the path doesn't mean it's going to end up being that way for everyone, right? Like, I practice yoga every day. I juice every day. I do nervous systems processes every day. And that's part of my self-love path. But does that mean that everyone who's on a self-love path is going to end up doing those things every day? So if those things feel like shit for you right now, you have to force yourself to do it because that's what a self-loving person does? No. That means that's not right for you right now. Maybe it's right for you later. But this path needs to be really, really focused on what is nourishing for me in this moment. What is nourishing for me in this moment? What is nourishing for me in this moment? Not where am I going, not how's this going to end up, not that's what she looks like or he looks like, so that's what I should do. We really, really, really need to focus that there is no right way to do this. These are all suggestions. These are all tools. These are all things to try. And if they work for you, they work for you. If they don't work for you now, maybe they work for you later. But just really, 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 I want you to be super, super gentle on yourself. And I want you to trust yourself that if something really is just repulsive to you, let yourself be repulsed by it, right? Like it might be there's like a rebellious teenager inside of you that just doesn't want to do it because you're being told you should. And you're going to have to let that part of you just be like, okay, I'm an adult and I never have to do that. Even if it's good for me, even if it's the right thing, even if it's going to heal me. And I just like hate it and I don't want to do it because like I need that 15-year-old inside of me to know she has power, to just know because I don't want to. You got to let yourself do that. Like that's the self-loving path. And then eventually that part of you will either grow and be like, okay, now I want to. Or it'll be like, yeah, no, that was never right for me. Okay? And then the last thing, we don't get rid of parts. Okay? We're never going to get rid of this, for instance, in what we're going to talk about today, this part of ourselves that blames ourselves. We don't get rid of it. You're never going to get rid of that part because that part isn't bad, and we don't get rid of parts. The part of you that blames you when you're in pain, the part of you that shames you when you figure out that something that you're doing is the cause of your pain and that you can change, the part of you that abandons you when you're in pain and when you're confused and when you feel like you're doing something wrong, the part of you that when you're suffering, like I say, you automatically look for how is this my fault, what am I doing wrong, what can I change, you go into that nitpicky mind. It is not a bad part of you. It is a part of you that recognizes you're in pain and is trying to help you get out of pain. Okay? That's never going anywhere. We are humans, we are alive, and we are always going to want to feel good. That is natural, that is normal, and all of the parts of ourselves that are doing all of the things that they're doing, every single part of you is just doing what it knows to do, either from programming or from trauma or from real reality, whatever it is. It gets all confusing. But if we boil everything down, and I will say this in every single one of my videos moving forward forever, whenever we get to the root of why you're doing any of the things you're doing, why you're thinking any of the things you're thinking, why you're looping in any of the things you're looping in, it's always going to come down to this part of you that's driving the car of your life right now is doing what it's doing because it's what it thinks it needs to do to make you feel better. That's it. That is the motivation behind everything you've ever done and everything you will ever do. And when we can finally start to recognize that like that's our foundation, there are no bad parts. You don't have a self-sabotaging part. You don't have a part that's resistant to healing. Not in the way that we think about it. You only have parts that yes, might be objectively causing destruction, that yes, might be objectively resisting what you need to do to heal. That is true, but they're not doing it because of that. They are doing it because they think that's what is actually best to do for you. Okay, that's always what every single part of you is doing. These parts of you can be incorrect. Okay, they can be, like I said, there could be that part of you that is like, no, Florida is north. We're going north. It's wrong, objectively, but it's not bad. It's not trying to sabotage you getting to Florida. It just genuinely believes that Florida is north. That's it. So when we're talking about like addressing our beliefs and changing our core beliefs and all of these things, it's because we want to bring all the parts of ourselves into reality. So if we have these parts that are causing us pain, that are objectively causing harm, that are self-sabotaging, that are coping, that are keeping us from being our real true selves, we're helping these parts come up to speed with how reality actually is. Because right now, they're just doing whatever they think is the right thing to get you where you want to go. Safety, resources, being able to grow and become yourself, like we talked about in the last video. That's what you want. So every single part of you, they might be in conflict. You might have lots of different parts that have lots of different ideas for what needs to happen to get you to be in a place where you can be your true self. But that's, all of them have the same goal. They just have different ideas of how we're going to get there, different ideas of what reality is. So there is no part of you you're going to get rid of. We're looking to try to bring all of the pieces of the self into alignment with how reality is actually working, so that you have a unified self that's heading towards a unified goal with the same information. That all the parts of you have the same information and are working from the same reality. That's what we want. Okay? Because right now, we just have lots of different parts that are working from different information, different perspectives, different perceptions, different programming. And that's why we can feel so divided. And like there are parts that are bad and doing the wrong thing. Okay? It's just that. It's every single part of you is trying to do what it thinks it needs to do to get you to safety so that you can express yourself. So if we really want to get to the place where we are safe and can actually express ourselves, we have to get all the parts of self on board with how reality actually works, what's really happening. And that's when we do all the questioning our thoughts work and the questioning our stories and the feeling the fear and the doing the nervous system reprogramming and being in our bodies and coming into reality and doing transcendental things and all of this stuff, right? It's all of these other tools are tools for helping us bring each part of us up to speed with reality, right? And this is why going into past traumas and imagining that it went a different way isn't ultimately helpful. Because trauma is, this is how reality went, and I don't understand why. I don't understand what happened, and so I can't take that information and use it to empower myself to move forward. It went a way that I didn't think it was going to go. It didn't go how I expected it to go. I was in pain and I don't know why. That's what trauma is. So if we continue to tell ourselves stories about how we think reality should have gone or how it would have gone if it would have made us feel good, we're still traumatizing ourselves because real reality happened the way that it happened. And then we have to look at, what did we tell ourselves about how reality went that isn't actually true? When I was rejected, what did that mean to me? Like I was going to die. But did that actually happen? Did I actually lose everyone and everything? Or did my behavior change so that I exiled myself So it really looked like I got abandoned by everybody, but really it was because I ran away from everyone. Because I was so ashamed and so afraid that they were going to reject me, because that rejection was going to equal death. And I didn't even recognize that because that was a childhood program that I never was mentally aware of, right? Like, it's very deep. Okay? So now, this part of you that blames you and that shames you, again, just like every other part, it's a good part of you. It's an immature part of you, but it's a good part. It's a part that's trying to take responsibility so that it can make you feel better, right? We are blaming ourselves and shaming ourselves and abandoning ourselves when we're in pain. Because that was what was modeled to us from our caregivers and from society. We panic if we were in pain and abandoned by our caregivers, or our caregivers couldn't help us figure it out, when that secure attachment got broken, and that secure, if I cry out, there's always someone or something out there that's going to be able to help me. And then we started to come into contact with the realities of reality, the realities of life. That there are some things we don't understand. There's some pain we can't control. There's some pain that's out of our control, and that's very traumatizing. Like that. This is what I think so much of spirituality is still trying to help us escape instead of helping us to integrate. This idea that life is inherently chaotic, in the sense that there is a structure to everything, there is an order to everything. On a grand scale, we would know why everything happens the way that it happens, because it's all cause and effect. But because the scale is so huge, because reality is so complex, from our human vantage point, we're never going to fully understand all of it to the degree that we can predict everything that's going to happen, and that we can control to make sure we only ever have positive feel-good experiences. That's never going to happen. From the human perspective, there is always going to be chaos. There are always going to be things that are out of our control, like the body we were born into, the situation we were born into, the language we were taught, and what the main language is, the skills we naturally have, and the skills that humanity values right now. Like, there are just certain things that we're never going to be able to change about reality. And if we're having a negative experience within that, right? Like, a lot of spirituality is trying to say, like, if you just change your mind enough, or if you just change your emotions enough, or if you just transcend enough, you'll never have a negative experience again. And I think real spirituality should be, you're going to have tragedy, you're going to have pain, you're going to have things that go away you don't want them to go. And how do we deal with it? How do we process it? How do we integrate it? How do we move with it? How do we process our emotions? How do we process our traumas? How do we learn to accept the things we cannot change, and to change the things we can? Like that to me is real spirituality, is completely grounded in reality, that this is what this is. So how do we move from an enlightened perspective of completely embracing our pain and the tragedies of life, and, like I said, just being pragmatic in a lot of ways, and also, like, what do we need to feel connected to something greater? What do we need to feel so that we can be in the world but not of the world, as Jesus says? And to me, that means, like, fully involved in the human experience without feeling like this is it and this is all there is. And if there's tragedy right now in this moment, then that's it. It's just life is pain and trapped forever, right? Like this. So there's part of you that wants to blame you when you're in pain, and there's part of you that wants to get mad at you when you figure out that there is something you're doing that can make things better for you, and then that creates shame inside of you, is just trying to protect you. It's not a bad part of you. And again, we're not going to get rid of it. The way we handle this part, the way we approach this part, is again by learning to establish a new secure attachment with this part and to make this part of ourselves safe, to give this part of ourselves a voice without giving them the keys to the car of your life. So what we're going to learn to do, so again, this practice of learning how to witness ourselves, to witness our parts, is again not with the ultimate intention of dissociating from ourselves, or that's just a part of me and I'm going to hold it at arm's length, right? Like a lot too of spirituality, and it can be very, very cold, where we're observing parts of ourselves, where we're dissociating and finding parts of ourselves, and witnessing the child self or the abandoned self or the traumatized self or whatever from this like cold, distant, well, that's not really me. Like that's not my higher self. That's my lower self. That's my immature self. That's my traumatized self. And I don't want to identify with that. And again, sometimes we need to go through that phase, right? Where we're so identified with that part and it feels so much like that is who and what we are, that in order to find the compassionate witness, we have to go through the phase of stone cold witness. Like I'm just going to identify as my higher self. I'm going to identify as my galactic self. I'm going to identify as my mature self, my whatever God perspective. And it's going to be a cold, like, okay, that's not me. And sometimes we have to go through that phase. And then we want to get to integration, which is going to require and involve us becoming compassionate observers of ourselves. Okay? We want to get to the place where we're compassionately holding these hurting, immature, traumatized parts of ourselves. And like I say, creating for them that secure attachment they never had. And rewiring what a secure attachment is for ourselves. Because again, in childhood, secure attachment was the thing that rescues me from pain and gives me everything that I need. So makes life perfect. A secure attachment is that thing that protects me from trauma and makes the trauma go away and fully can identify my needs and take all my pain away and make my life only pleasure. And as adults, we're going to come into the recognition and the realization that that secure attachment doesn't exist in reality. We can't have that. We can't recreate that. We're never going to have that secure world, right? And spirituality is trying to recreate the ideal childhood secure attachment and not the adult secure attachment. The adult secure attachment is life is always going to have some pain. Life is always going to have some turmoil. There may be some suffering I never transcend. There may be some problems I never understand. There may be things, right? Life is always going to be learning and then figuring out there's something I need to learn. Having a desire, being able to get it, having a desire, not being able to get it. Totally being on this path and then some curveball comes and figuring something out about yourself and this being really authentic for you for a while and then not anymore, and change and evolution and life is always going to be that. So what is a secure attachment in the adult world? But I am going to be here with you no matter what. Even if we can't figure it out. Even if we're in pain. Even if life is just tragedy. I'm going to be here in this moment with me. And I'm going to have compassion for me. And I'm going to meet myself where I'm at. So maybe I need emotional expression. Maybe I need to talk to somebody. Maybe I need to bury my head under the blankets. Like, what do I need in this moment to feel validated in my process so that I can actually process? And not worry so much about where I'm supposed to get. Like, figuring it out, getting the pain over with, or the getting to forgiveness so that I'm a mature spiritual person, or getting to this mature perspective that I know is the real answer, but that's not how I really feel. It's not about any of that. It's about like being your own best friend, being your own ideal lover, of just that person who sees you and validates you and acknowledges you and is there with you and says, I'm going to come with you on this journey. You're never going to be alone because I have me. Like we have like this split personality almost of like this human part of ourselves that's having this human experience. And this other part of ourselves that's the compassionate witness that is like, and I'm here with you no matter what. I'm going to help you figure it out. I'm going to be your broader perspective. And we train ourselves in this, right? Like I have trained myself. I have developed the compassionate witness. I have developed my own secure attachment inside myself. It wasn't something that I was born with. It wasn't something that I was given. It is something I worked for. And it gives me the capacity to say, this is what life is. I am not looking to be transcended. I am not looking for a perfect life where everything stops. I am not claiming to be transcended, and I never want to be. I hope that I'm always learning. I hope that I'm always growing. I know there will always be challenge. I know there will always be things that just when I think I got it all figured out, I don't. Because I'm never going to have it all figured out. And that no longer scares me or makes me feel like I'm doing it wrong or makes me think that I'm not spiritual. That's like, no, I'm human. And that's what I'm here for. And it doesn't disconnect me from my divinity or my feeling that I'm perfect and whole and complete and connected to love, because I have figured out that, right, my connection to love is completely a tap that I turn on and off. It's within me now. As an adult, my own secure attachment, I never have to reject or abandon myself. I never have to be alone because I know how to connect to something greater than myself through myself via just accepting myself. So again, we're never going to get rid of the part of the self that blames us. I still have a part of me that was my, this is all your fault, I'm going to blame you for it part. It's still there. She's just much more mature now. She now says, okay, where do I have power? Where is my capacity to make this different? And learning that I was a part of my own pain sometimes doesn't lead to guilt and shame anymore. It's like, oh, good. I figured something out. I realized I was playing a role in this, and that's freedom. And I can see the innocence. Yeah? I never look at it and was like, oh, you're such an idiot. Why did you do that? Not anymore. Because now I'm like, oh, I can totally see why I did that. I might be mad at the results. I might be like, man, like I wish I had known what I know now back then. I wish I hadn't had to go through that. Of course that happens. But ultimately I know I didn't wake up one day and just think I'm gonna like fuck myself over today. Never. I'm always, always, always just doing what I think is the best thing to do. And then when I learned that what I was doing wasn't the best thing, that's a relief. That's a good thing. It's like, oh, good. Now I have more information. That gives me more information, that empowers me to do something different, to get different results. That these are all good things. And so like I say, but that's because I worked on that part. I have developed the secure attachment to that part. So how do we do this? So when you recognize in yourself right now, this part of you that blames you when you're in pain, this part of you that abandons you when you're in pain, this part of you that whenever you're in pain or you're struggling or something comes up or like someone's mad at you or you're in a situation where someone's upset with you or you're getting like externally rejected or you're physically in pain, you're mentally in pain, you're emotionally in pain, you're being told by other people that you're wrong and you're bad and they don't like you or that you're doing it wrong or you're not allowed to be this way and all of this stuff is happening. And you go into that like, what's wrong with me? I suck. What do I need to change about myself? What do I need to improve about myself? How am I wrong? What am I doing wrong? And then, right, a lot of the time in the spiritual world, we'll like, why do I keep manifesting this? Why do I keep recreating this trauma for myself? Why do I keep choosing this? What trauma am I trying to relive and do different, and why can't I do it different? Where's my false belief in this? Like, even these questions, when we're not really ready to ask them from a compassionate place, they will just be secret ways we're looking to be like, here's how you suck. And the reason we do that again is because in childhood, the only thing we had control over was ourselves. We did not have control over how reality worked. We didn't have control over our parents. We didn't have control over our conditioning. We didn't have control over how things worked. The only thing we had control over was our behavior. So if we were doing something and we weren't getting the results that we wanted, we were in pain, we weren't being helped, whatever. Hello. We could only change how we were behaving in hopes that it was going to elicit a different response. Okay? So that's where that part of you came from. It's not bad. It's not wrong. You're never going to get rid of it. It's a childlike part of you. The part of you that blames you, the part of you that says, what's wrong with me? And then, right, is looking for the bigger picture. How do I need to change my diet? How do I need to change my lifestyle? How do I need to change the way that I'm dating? How do I need to change the way that I'm working? How do I need to figure out the whole big thing so that this pain never happens again? Both of these parts are child parts that are trying to figure out how it was your fault so that you can change, so that the pain never happens again, so that you can make it stop, and so that it never comes back again. So that's why it doesn't feel safe to say, I'm not going to blame myself anymore. Because we think if I don't blame myself, then I'm never going to figure out how it's my fault. And if I can't figure out how it's my fault, I can't change it, and then I'm in pain forever. So don't tell me to get rid of this part of myself. Don't tell me to not listen to this part of myself. This is the best part of myself that I have. It feels terrible, but it also feels empowering. So again, recognize the positive intention. The part of you that blames you, and the part of you that goes whole big picture, what do I need to do, or super nitpicky, right? What foods do I need to eat? What ways do I need to change the way that I'm speaking and talking, and how do I need to Joe Dispenza myself into this positive thing, and what's the perfect program for be here now, right? All of that is the panic button that's being hit. And it's the child part of you getting in the driver's seat and driving the car, because again, that's your nervous system taking over. You got into pain, would put you into fight or flight, which puts you into rejection and fear, which then puts you into nervous system program. So this is why you do the same things over and over and over again, expecting different results. That's why you do the spiritual thing that gives you the high, and then you crash. You do the new plan, it works for a bit, and then you crash. You change your belief, everything's great, and then you realize you're dating the same guy again, and you crash. Why? Because your nervous system is just getting you to do the same thing over and over and over again. Not because it's trying to get you to replay a traumatizing situation to do it different. It's because that's how it knows to get your needs met right now. Right? So all of the ways in which you sabotage yourself and you have the bad relationship over again. You pick the wrong job over and over again. You have the same dramas over and over again. Why are you doing it? Because that's how you know how to meet your need. If you had a different kind of relationship right now, you'd have no idea how to get your needs met in that relationship. If you actually healed your body, you would have no idea how to get your needs met in life. If you actually had the job, like a lot of the time, right? If we really got what we wanted, we would realize the pain of life doesn't go away. And then the bubble bursts. That thing we thought, if we just fixed this thing, the body, the job, the relationship, whatever, if we just got there, everything would be perfect and all the pain would go away. And then if we actually get there, we realize that's not true. And then all of our hope goes away. So we sabotage it. We don't actually want to get there. Right? Because that would then, like I say, reveal that that's not where the pain is coming from. So we need to make room for this part that blames and shames. And this is where, again, we develop that compassionate witness. So we start by witnessing the part that blames and shames and goes macro or micro and wants to get into your pattern. Like the most powerful thing you'll ever learn how to do is to create that little bubble of space between pain, what you're feeling, what you want to do, and acting and getting all the way down the rabbit trail, right? Where we just witness for a second. Okay, pattern. Like this is the pattern. I'm doing it. Because it's going to feel different and new every time. When we go into the self-blame, every time we think we're going to do the Joe Dispenza thing again or the whatever again, we're going to get back on track, we're going to change our beliefs, we're going to change our diet, we're going to change the relationship, it feels new. It feels like this is the first time we're doing this. I'm never going to do that again. I'm never going to scapegoat again. I'm never going to cope again. New plan, new resolution. This time I'm right? I'm blaming myself, but this time it's true. This time I'm completely clear-headed. I'm absolutely right in how I'm blaming myself. That's how it's always going to feel. Every single time it's going to feel like it's new and different, and it's going to feel true. Okay, that's the other thing. Please understand that for a lot of us, right now, what we feel and what we're making what our feelings mean are two different things. We're having feeling, but we are interpreting our feelings incorrectly. So when we go into blame, it feels true. I've had that, everyone say that to me, right? So we're doing thought work, someone says I'm in pain, and I say, okay, why? And they say, well, it's because I'm doing this wrong. I say, okay, how does that feel? And they say, true. And I say, no, you think it's true. If you look at your story, you have this whole story about why it's true, and how it's true, and how it's different this time, and how even the thing you did last time worked. You just fell off. If you just get back on track, it'll be better. You have that story. But if you really feel what you're feeling in your body, to tell yourself, this is my fault, and this is a shitty thing I did, and I'm just doing this for no reason, or I'm doing this because I'm broken, or I'm doing this because I'm shitty, or I'm doing this because I'm weak or immature, or I deserve this kind of treatment, or whatever it is that we're telling ourselves. And like, this is what's wrong with me, and this is what I need to do to fix it. If you really feel your body, it doesn't feel like lightness. It doesn't feel like freedom. It doesn't feel like, yeah. It might feel adrenaline. It might feel tension. It's going to feel heavy. Like, I really want you to actually tune into how you feel. And then the story you're telling yourself about what that feeling means. Because most of us think, I think a thought, it's familiar to me. It makes sense to me. And my body tenses, and I feel adrenaline, and therefore it is true. But I'm telling you, when you really hit on something that is true, even if it's something that's hard, like a truth that's difficult to take in, a truth that's like, oh, wow, okay, that's a lot, there's going to be an expansive feel. It's going to feel relaxing. It's going to feel expanding. It might feel like overwhelming and scary, but there's in the body sensation is going to be like, oh. So if it doesn't feel like that, what you're feeling and telling yourself it feels true is actually, it feels familiar. My nervous system knows this. This is my pattern. This is my comfort zone. This is what makes sense to me right now based on what I believe. This makes sense to my story. But this isn't what truth feels like. Truth never feels like a dagger in the heart. Truth never feels like ice. Truth never feels like contraction. Truth never feels like adrenaline. Because again, that's a huge one, especially in the spirituality worlds today where we're all addicted to plant medicines and Kundalini yoga and positive frenzying ourselves. We're addicted to the nervous system stimulation of these processes and these practices, and being told that that's what it feels like to be awakened and enlightened and processing, and it isn't. That's not what it feels like. Okay? Real processing, real truth, real is nervous system regulating. It's not bells and whistles. It's not firecrackers. It's much more grounded than that. It might be intense. It might be like a lot of energy moving through the body, but it's not frying you out. Okay, you might get tired from it. It's true. But again, it's not adrenaline. And a lot of us are confusing spiritual experience for adrenaline. And adrenaline is, again, just your nervous system got so activated and so traumatized and so stimulated that you had this experience that took you out of maybe the depressive, coping, numb place you were in. So it feels really different and way better. You got whipped into that frenzy of positive belief and rah Tony Robbins. But again, you can't hold on to it. It's just smoke because it's not grounded in reality. It's not real. And so the first thing is when you're looking at these self-blame stories and the shame and the like, I should have known better, I should have done better, this is my fault, I'm just being shitty, I'm just resisting my, you're going to witness that and you're going to notice that I'm telling myself this story. And I want you to actually, again, feel what your body is feeling. And notice you want to tell yourself, no, it's true. This is real and it's true. I know because it feels real. And I want you to be like, no. It feels familiar. It feels comfortable. It feels like this is, if I can tell myself this is the problem, then that's helping me have the solution. And then that part of you wants to take the keys and drive the car. And we're just going to wait for a second. We're just going to notice, again, that actually felt adrenaline. That actually felt heavy and icy and like it stimulated me into action. But it didn't feel good. It didn't feel grounded. And if I really take a second, I'm going to notice this is my pattern. This is what I do. I go big picture, I go micro, and I've done this action before. And I'm looping, and I'm looping, and I'm looping. So the first thing is to be able to witness the self-blame. Witness what it actually feels like and the story we're telling ourselves about that feeling and how that might not be true. And then witness how we're going into a pattern. And then we're going to ask ourselves, okay, what need am I getting met from this pattern? What do I think this is going to give me? Has it ever actually given me that? What's the innocence behind this? Right? We can do all that work. But the main point is that we start with seeing that part of ourselves that wants to blame us, that wants to shame us, that wants to tell us how shitty we are, that it's all of our fault, and we're just doing this on purpose, and we have no reason to be this way, and we're so whiny, and we're so lazy, and if we were just doing the right thing, we would be better, and like, it's so true, we're just like not trying hard enough, we're just sabotaging ourselves, we're just, all of these horrible stories we tell ourselves. That there's no reason for this, right? I have no good reason to be this way. Yes, you do. Okay, you're always going to discover that everything you're doing comes from trauma. You didn't traumatize yourself. You did not traumatize yourself. You're addicted because you're traumatized and you didn't traumatize yourself. You're coping because you're traumatized and you didn't traumatize yourself. You're not living the life you want to be living because you're traumatized and you didn't traumatize yourself. You don't know who you are and what you want. You're exhausted. You're coping. You're looping. You're doing all these things. You're in the same relationship over and over again. Your body isn't healing. All that stuff for a good reason. And none of it's your fault. And when we start from that, this isn't my fault. This is lineage stuff. I was born into a chaotic world. I was born into indoctrination that told me this is how reality works and it's working a different way. And maybe I don't have the answers right now, and maybe I don't understand, and it's all very big and confusing. Because again, remember, when we go into self-blame and shame, we're minimizing the problem for ourselves. We're making it safe by not having to look at the big complexity of it. Because, right, like really witnessing how our parents and our caregivers let us down, and the ways that the institutions are wrong, and our conditioning is incorrect, is traumatizing. Because we don't feel like we know how to find the real answers. We don't, if what we were taught isn't true, if what we're doing isn't the right thing, then what is? We don't know. So we want to hold on to this for all these very, very, very good reasons. Because letting it go, when we let go of blaming ourselves, letting go, when we evolve from blaming ourselves, we're always going to come to see that, like, okay, yeah, my issues are a little bit bigger than I thought they were. There's more complexity here than I thought. This is going to be more difficult than I thought it was going to be a lot of the time. Or I don't know what the actual answer is. My loop didn't work because it isn't it. And I'm going to have to learn something totally new. And I'm going to have to go on this journey, and I don't know what it is, and I don't know what the first step is, and I don't know where to go. And yeah, all of that's going to happen. So again, we have complete compassion for this part. We witness this part that blames and shames and loops and does the same things over and over again. And we say, I see you. Thank you. You're just trying to help me. You're just trying to help me. You're a good part. You're not right, though. It could be that there are seeds of truth, that there are things that you're saying that I could change and I could do different, but it's not because I'm shitty. It's not because I'm bad. It's not because I'm broken. It's not because I'm stupid. It's not because of any of these things. If there's something that needs to change in the way that I'm doing things, it's literally just because right now this is the best I know, and I need to learn something different. That's it. I'm doing it from trauma. I'm doing it from my understanding. I'm doing it from, like, this makes sense if I actually look at my history and I don't just erase my childhood, which most of us do. If I actually look at how I got here, this makes sense. I'm not dumb. I'm not stupid. I got really hurt. I got really traumatized. People showed me that this is how they were. People showed me that this is what life is like. I'm coping with a reality that's painful. And so we have compassion. We witness this part with compassion, and then we say, okay, but I'm not going to give you the keys to the car. I'm not going to act on what you want me to do right now. I'm going to hold you. I'm going to tell you I'm going to be here with you. I'm going to tell you we will figure this out. Not today. We will figure this out. I'm not going to abandon you in your pain. I see that you're in pain. I see that you're hurting. I get it. I'm so sorry. It's not your fault. I'm not going anywhere. We're going to figure this out. Not today. What we're going to figure out today is, what do you need to feel safe and nourished right now from what's actually available in your actual current reality? So I know there might be things that you want or that you feel like you need that you can't get, that aren't available to you right now, and that's okay. We're going to say, in real reality, in where I actually am right now, what can I do for you, part that wants to blame me, to make you feel safe and heard and validated? Because the reality is, the whole big picture of why you're doing the things that you're doing, and how you can empower yourself, and how you can change, and all of that stuff, all of those answers, you're never going to get that in the flash of insight of seeing the whole picture. You're going to understand that in hindsight by taking these little steps. Just every single moment you're in pain, you show up for yourself. And just in that moment, you're going to witness your stories, you're going to witness your patterns, you're going to witness all that stuff, you're going to start to reprogram yourself. That adrenaline, that guilt feeling, that shame feeling isn't the feeling of truth, isn't the feeling of I should act on this. That's the feeling of conditioning. And we're going to pause. And instead of acting on our programming, we're going to witness it. Like, okay, what does that get me? What's the need that gets met when I do that? What's the needs that don't get met when I do that? Where's the positive intention? And where's the things that are harmful or hurtful? And how can I start to look at all of that as my attempt at getting my needs that I don't understand met? And then we ask ourselves, what do I just need in this moment to feel safe and loved and nourished? And then we just do that little thing. That's how we handle this part. Okay? So, witnessing the part that wants to shame. Noticing that. Noticing all the stories and how we think it feels true. Noticing what it actually feels like. Noticing all the stories that convince us that it's true. And I'm saying, but how does it actually feel? Does it feel like expansion and freedom? Or does it feel like stimulation and adrenaline? Or crushing? Or paralyzing? Or so does it feel like familiar? And it stimulates me and makes me feel like I have power? Or does it feel like, oh, okay. Is it something I've done before, just in a slightly different way? Or is it an actually new revelation? And when we can start to witness that, we just make room. And then we just say, okay, I'm going to figure this out. I'm not telling you we're not going to change. I'm not telling you we're not going to do anything. We'll still mobilize. We'll still figure it out. Not today. Today, we're just going to focus on today. What do I need to do today? What actually needs to get done? What's actually in my control? And how can I do it from a loving, compassionate place? How can I witness my past and witness my stories and witness the things that actually happened to me that convinced me that the world is really horrible and terrible, and validate that that was true, and that maybe now I can make it different because I'm an adult now who can do things different. I'm not going to give this little childlike part of me the keys to the car anymore. And that part is going to take the keys. Okay? It's going to happen. We're not going to be able to do all this all at once. This is just a process to think. Over time, you will integrate. But this is how we get on our own side. There's no bad part of you. The shame and the guilt part isn't right. They might have answers for you, and it might be true. But again, when it's a mature, okay, this is what I can do, there's no shame or guilt involved. When it's a mature, we're really seeing where our power is. Even when we're causing harm, we can say, okay, whoa, I can see why I did that. It's not because I'm a terrible person. I didn't want to hurt someone. I did, and that's okay, in the sense that, like, I understand why I did it. I see now why that wasn't the right thing, and I can change. Because change doesn't mean I was a horrible, shitty person before. Change just means I didn't know before, and now I know better, and I can do different. And that's okay. It actually frees us to change more when we no longer have guilt and shame. Because a lot of us think, I won't change if I don't have guilt and shame. Or I'll just be a horrible person if I don't have guilt and shame. And the reality is the exact opposite. When you recognize your innocence, that's when you have the most power to change and grow and do things differently. And you're going to do that one little day at a time. That's how you're going to get there. That's how you're going to get out of whatever pain you're in. That's how you're going to figure everything out, just by being in this moment. Right? We climb a mountain one step at a time. You can't be any more steps ahead than the steps you're at. So looking for the whole big picture and why it is this way and how do I get to it, doesn't matter. You'll never get that. You're just going to be like, okay, what's pertinent today? What's pertinent right now from where I'm really at? And how can I move from nourishing myself? Being nourishing and supportive of me, not fixing myself. This is how we bring our nervous system down. Okay? So I hope that makes sense. You're not going to get rid of the part. You're going to witness it, you're going to love it, and the more you do this, the more you witness it, you validate it, you look for the positive intention, you look for the innocence, you look for the stories, you start to find the real truth, you act on the truth a little bit every single day, and you work from compassion for yourself. This is how you mature this part of you until eventually you don't go into shame anymore or guilt. And taking responsibility is a liberating thing. It's a truly mature thing, not a how do I fix my broken, shitty self thing. Okay? So I hope that makes sense. I hope that's helpful. And there's nothing wrong with you, and there's no inevitabilities on this path. The self-love path looks different for everyone. How we can be the most awesome light worker person on the planet looks different for all of us. For some of us, that means never shopping at a corporation again. For some of us, we shop at corporations. For some of us, we go vegan. Some of us, we go carnivore. It's different for everyone. And that's why I don't like saying this is what it looks like to be a good person or to be less harm. Because when we're moving towards less harming, that's different for all of us. When we're moving towards self-expression, that's different for all of us. And there's enough room on this planet for all of us to be the way that we are. If we can just really start to be that. So don't look for the blueprint. The blueprint is just, how do I get on my own side more? How do I be compassionate with myself? Look for this innocence. Look for my patterns. See the innocence in those patterns. But pattern interrupt with compassionate witness. I see why you're doing that. Right? I'm not arm's length witness. I see why you're doing that. And how can I make you feel safe and loved and validated? And then where do we want to go from that place? I'm safe, I'm loved, I'm validated. Now what kind of action do I want to take today? And we do that over and over and over and over and over again. And that's how we get to that empowered. We've made the changes that we needed to make to empower ourselves. Okay? So that's that. I love you. Let me know if you have any questions, comments, concerns. Leave them in the comments. And I will see you next week.